Why does it seem like men and women no longer want each other? Every time I go on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, anywhere online really, all I ever see is men and women complaining about each other. On one hand, we have those red pill manosphere guys who constantly complain about modern women and they say that marriage is a bad deal for men and you should stay away from Western women or just avoid dating women altogether because they're going to destroy your lives. And on the other hand, I see those modern feminists who constantly talk about patriarchy and how every man is basically a sexist who is trying to take advantage of women, and they're also encouraging other women to stay single. So, what is going on? Actually, it's all by design. This is not a coincidence, this didn't just happen suddenly. This was planned beforehand. So you need to understand like why would the people in power want you to hate the opposite gender? I mean, it doesn't feel good, to hate or resent half of the planet, half of the human population. But that doesn't matter because the outcome is good for them. Obviously, if you dislike the opposite gender, if you think that men are all trash or women are all trash, you're not going to get romantically involved with a person of another gender. And obviously, you're not going to get married and have kids either. So that's why we are seeing like this steady population decrease over the last decades, but only in the West. So what is interesting, this is not going on in poorer countries. This is only going on in the Western countries, but I'm sure this is just a coincidence. I'm sure there's like no evil plot behind it. So you need to understand that if you feel like if you're constantly being shown content that is basically making you angry and resentful of the opposite gender, like seeing like all those fake, by the way, interviews where it's like a woman is saying some dumb shit or a man is saying something evil, you need to understand someone is pushing this content towards you. Someone wants you to watch this shit, and that's because they want you to be resentful and hateful of the opposite gender so that you never get married, you never start a family. And they're also pushing this idea that everybody is too poor to have kids. They are constantly talking about how expensive it is to have kids, how there's like this huge inflation, not everybody can afford to have a family. This all depends on your standards because in poorer countries people are having lots of kids. So somehow they are managing it. I'm not saying you should, you know, raise your kids in a very frugal manner and never provide them with anything. But you don't have to be a billionaire either to have kids. It's people have had kids and have raised families for centuries. And now suddenly there's this idea that we can no longer afford it, even though we are wealthier than ever. I know there's a recession and I know there's like a lot of issues, but the amount of financial issues that the average person is dealing with nowadays is nothing compared to what was the financial situation of someone 200 years ago. And yet people had kids back then. That's because, like I said, it's all planned. Okay, so if you just suddenly came up with this idea not to have kids, not to start a family, or you just came to the conclusion that the opposite gender is the worst, this wasn't something, this isn't your independent thought. I'm sorry to say, to break it to you, but it's not like you're some kind of critical thinker, because you came to the exact conclusion that is being promoted nowadays. So you're basically doing what the global elite wants you to. And I find it very ironic when all those red pill guys are constantly talking about the Matrix, how you should escape the Matrix. Well, if that's the case, why aren't you getting married, bro? Why don't you want to have kids? I mean, didn't you realize that there's an agenda, there's a plan for you not to have kids? So they're basically falling for a very easy manipulation tactic, very easy trap set by the elite for them. And yet they're pretending to be some kind of critical thinkers who are aware of the Matrix and are trying to escape from it. The real way of escaping the Matrix is starting a family and raising kids who are going to believe in traditional values so that they also pass on those traditional values to the next generation. That's how you actually change the world. Not by escaping all the responsibilities and deciding to be single forever. If you decide to just stay single or not have kids, You are part of the problem. You are part of the reason why the population is declining. And if you don't care about it, okay, fine. But you cannot pretend to actually care about the society while also making a conscious choice not to pass on your genes. It's only here in the West that people have this idea that it's better to stay single, stay childless, unmarried. If you only care about your own needs, about your own comfort, fine. But we'll see what happens in 30 years or in 100 years if we are still here. So I know this isn't nice to hear. No, this isn't like a nice message that cuddles your ears. There's enough content in this world that is going to encourage you to follow your own needs, follow your own comfort. So might as well listen to something else for a change, you know? I'm the only person who's going to tell you that it would be better for you to start a family than to stay single. Everybody else is going to encourage you to stay single. And another thing I've noticed is that nowadays both men and women have a very transactional attitude towards relationships, like almost like a business-like attitude. It's almost like they treat relationships, romantic relationships, the thing that used to be called love, they treat it almost like it was a business partnership. Like they say things like, they use those pseudo-rational terms. They would say things like high-value men, high-value women, sexual market value, and they will use like those weird buzzwords like nagging, ghosting. I'm not going to like say all the terms because that would take like forever, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, they always talk about dating as if it was some kind of science, but they never talk about love. They never talk about, you know, following your heart. But love is about following your heart. It's not about calculating every move. If you have to calculate everything, if you have to like purposefully wait 3 days before responding to someone, that is not the right person for you. I can already tell you that. With the right person, you don't have to play those stupid games. You know, if you are dating someone who's mature, you don't have to pretend to be someone else for them to like you. And please don't, because it's a terrible way to live. It's going to make you feel so hollow and empty inside. And give love a chance. Give up on this weird dating game stuff. I don't know how to call this, but like all this weird mindset of like calculating everything. And try to just follow your heart, open up for a chance. And you might be surprised what might happen. That's what I did, and I don't regret it at all. So that was my second video. I will be posting regularly, so if you like this content, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss other videos as well. Peace.